Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking an interactive look at Duran Duran because unfortunately the video that I did last night has been blocked worldwide today on copyrights, and thank you for everybody letting me know, those of you that didn't actually get to see it unfortunately, and the person that requested the video in the first place. I've said before that if a video does get blocked, I'm going to do this workaround so that the person that did request this video and analysis at least has a representation of the band Duran Duran on this channel. So I'm going to re-edit and re-upload the video with the copyrighted parts taken out. So now is the time to find that link in the description below and the one pinned to the top of the comments, so you can watch through that video and then come back here for the analysis. Just for reference, I stopped the video at 2 minutes and 48 seconds, and that's when I did my first bout of analysis and then continued from then on. So I will see you guys in the comment section. I'm just going to jump in here. This performance of this track, in terms of the sound we're getting live here, I love it when a band gets all of the instruments in that were originally on the record. We've got a saxophone in there, we've got backing vocalists, we've got the original band, of course, having the keys in there. There's everything kicking off in this performance, and everything is spot on. When you listen to the band, obviously, it's so easy to listen to Simon up front and his vocals, but listen to all of that work going on behind the scenes. The rhythm section is spot on. We've got Roger Taylor on drums, and no, it's not that Roger Taylor from Queen, and we've got John Taylor on bass, and they are locked into the groove here. It is so solid, this performance, instrumentally, but also vocally with the backing harmonies that we have coming in. And just to mention the Taylors in that rhythm section, we've also got Andy Taylor on guitar, and it's just one of those really weird coincidences that they're not related, but we had 3 Taylors in Duran Duran. Just getting into Simon Le Bon's voice and his vocal delivery with this track, he's got one of those voices that is so unique tonally, but also with the way that he delivers it pitch-wise. Because what you'll find with some singers, they do apply a wider vibrato, which I've mentioned in other videos, means that the note they're singing sometimes gets encapsulated within that vibrato, so you're not just getting a straight pitch. Whereas in Simon's case, he's so dead on in terms of his singing. The pitch has to be so spot on because he doesn't lean into any other sound in terms of vibrato or really pushing the voice, getting heavily distorted. It's just Simon's natural singing voice. So pitch-wise, this is where he has to be so accurate because he doesn't have that wider vibrato that is going to include that note that he's trying to hit. A guy like Simon is the perfect example of someone whose vocal is so unique because he's not pitch perfect. And it's something that you'll find when you listen to Duran Duran and any song that Simon sang, even on the record, there'll be certain words and certain phrases, certain vowels that he might be slightly flat on, but that's because it's his voice. That's the way that he sings, and with that particular vowel, he might struggle getting it exactly on pitch. But especially back in the 80s, they got in the studio and sang it, and that was the take. So it means that you got a real representation of the record live because it's the same guy singing it, and he's always going to be potentially slightly flat on that particular vowel because that's how he sang it on the record. So you get a great representation and authentic reproduction of the record. So this is a major part of what sets singers apart. Not only having their natural tone like Simon is singing with here, so you can instantly tell it's his voice, but the fact that he will be slightly flat and maybe slightly sharp on particular consonants and vowels, where another singer wouldn't be. So it's just unique to Simon's vocal and his voice, and somebody trying to imitate Simon Le Bon singing, it would be so difficult because first of all you'd have to nail the tone, but then you'd have to be exactly the same amount flat, and it's ever so slightly flat. I'm not saying that he's out of key here. you'd have to be the same amount flat or sharp that Simon Le Bon is in order to recreate the expression of his voice. And that is what you get with this kind of live performance, and the way they used to record is that live expression of the voice, and that's why it's so impossible to imitate a Duran Duran track, because the singer is so unique. And this is what you'll find about all the top bands and all the top singers throughout time before auto-tune. It's so difficult to emulate what they did because of those tiny inaccuracies that cause the expression in their voice. Another thing I just want to bring up about Simon's vocal in this particular performance is the context of the performance. Playing in front of 100,000 people in Live Aid, one of the biggest events of all time, and putting on a show, and the amount of distance that he's covering on stage, this certainly would not have been rehearsed this way. So when the adrenaline kicks in and Simon starts performing, you can see how active he is, and this is naturally going to affect the vocal in terms of getting the vocal phrases out, but also catching your breath from the amount of movement that you're doing across the stage. When they would rehearse this, I guarantee you that Simon would be standing at the mic and he'd be breathing exactly when he needs to for each vocal phrase. He wouldn't be out of breath. As soon as you are in front of 100,000 people, I can imagine the adrenaline must be pumping so much that you naturally want to move around and get rid of that adrenaline if you can. And that's what Simon's doing here. So there will always be situations and phrases where he's out of breath because he is effectively holding his breath while singing. This is the other thing, that on this second section after the verse, we've got really long notes that are being held, and we've got that semitone change on the vocal. And when you are moving around a lot and you need to breathe more in order to recover, when you're singing long phrases, you're not allowing your body to get the oxygen in to recover from all the movement and all of that oxygen that the muscles need to then recover from the effective exercise that's going on here. And I defy anybody to stand up in front of 100,000 people and not get into it and move a lot more than you normally would in a rehearsal. This is one of those videos that could go on all night because there's so many great elements in here, but just looking at the composition and the reflex as a song and the journey that you go on throughout this performance, but also that original record, because we start the intro all in, and it's a standalone intro, so it gets your attention. When we get into the verse, it's an extension of that intro with Simon's vocals now coming in over the top with great melodic content, and then we get into what could be classed as a chorus, but it's not the chorus, because the semitone vocal that we change into is so different compared to the verse. It's that straight cut off, and like I said, it could be classed as a chorus, but then after this, we get into the actual chorus. So that pre-chorus is so strong, you think that you'd really have to go some to beat that, to now up that as a chorus again, and we have that in this track. This is what set it apart from other songs around at the time, is that other songs might have had an interesting intro, they might have had a great verse and a great chorus, but then that would loop around and they might have a bridge towards the end of the track. But with this, the reflex starts with a great intro, the verse, and then the pre-chorus and the chorus are all so strong melodically that by the time you get to the end of the chorus and we go back to the verse, you've almost forgotten about the verse because there was so much after that. Whereas when you have a song that just has a verse and a chorus, you can already remember the verse because it was only one other thing. So the great thing about this track is there's hooks galore throughout it, and this is why it's such a great live rendition, because we've got all the instruments in there, the hooks being played on the saxophone live, and the guitar hooks, the hooks on the keys, everything's thrown in there. But we've got those 4 standalone sections so far in the track, so that when we get back to the verse, it's like listening to something fresh because you can't remember it that well. And that's the great thing about this song. You just want to rewind it back to the beginning and hear it all over again. But let's check out the rest of this performance. And there we have it. What a great live performance that was. And hats off to Simon putting on such a show at the front of the stage. When I mention about being short of breath and moving around the stage so much, personally, I would much rather have that and the frontman put on a show than just stand there and deliver the vocal perfectly, really on pitch, but not having any entertainment in there. Some people, when they go to watch a live band, they want to be entertained and they don't want a perfect reproduction of the album just in a live setting, because you can listen to the album if you want to get a perfect reproduction of that. And the best bands, they will always mix it up a little bit live and throw in some lead guitars that weren't originally on the record, and sometimes the vocalist will change some of the phrasing in some of the singing, change some of the melody. And this is the great thing about live performance, and the great thing about this performance by Duran Duran are all of those elements that come together. We've got everything that's on the record, but we've got the entertainment, we've got the show. So when I mention about the core band being so strong, and whether they have saxophone or backing singers, like with this live performance, it's just going to embellish their sound because they're so strong already. We've got players with great technical ability here on drums, guitar, bass, keys, and a lead vocalist with a unique tone and a unique approach to his singing. He's not trying to be anybody else, he's just being Simon Le Bon, and that's why it works so well. Once you add that all together, people can sometimes take their eye off the fact that this is a band. These are top players and top writers. They're not going to outside writers. They're not getting any outside help with their compositions. The Reflex is a great example of their combined ability to write a hit. I don't want this video to go on for too long, and with Duran Duran being such a great live band, it means that I have analysed quite a lot in this particular video in terms of dissecting elements of the band and Simon's voice and his vocal performance. I'll try to do the follow-up video to this one that will cover more of the history of Duran Duran relatively soon, because it'll be good to link it in with this one, but also there's lots of interesting stuff in there, like with MTV, which was a massive part of the music industry at the time. Music videos and the way that they released a music video before it was actually released on radio, so they were drawing people into that video aspect of the music first, but also their debut album, how well that did. But as I said, also Barbarella, the film, Dr. Duran Duran, that's where the name Duran Duran came from. But anyway, I'll be getting into that later on. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!